All right. Uh, Tom here, Flip Anything. Uh, was trying to get something out earlier today. It didn't happen. Um, I kind of back on the gift mode here. Um, I'd like everyone to. Let me see what I got here. Hey, Posh, how you doing? Um, if you would send me an email at Tom at Flip Anything USA, and let me know what you use, whether it's Android or iPhone. This kind of ties into ultimately the gift that I'm going to be sending some of you. Hey, David. Um, if you would maybe do a quick poll here in a little bit here for what kind of phone do y'all use? Do you use iPhones or do you use Android phones? I can say one thing: the Android's got a hell of a lot better camera. At least I haven't got the 7 yet. The iPhone. That's all I've ever used is iPhones. But the cameras are terrible. Oh, iPhone, okay. Android, yeah. Um, yeah, that's kind of the main. More Android. Okay, that's good. Um, iPhone about 50-50 so far. Um, when let's see, I was going to talk about. I don't know. Oh, got another one. iPhone. What what are you guys looking at right now? What is the main goal? Just anything or home? I don't know if you already own your own home or not. I mean, what's the main goal? Just make money? We're just kind of open mic here. Mainly, the main gist of this is I'm going to give out some gifts, like I said, and I need to kind of do a survey, get everybody's retirement. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I tell my boys all the time, uh, a good life, and I tell my kids that are in college too, I say, hey, look, a good life is by design. It really is. A good life is by design. It doesn't usually just happen, and I can tell you, in my childhood, good, my parents got divorced, but, good people just trying to do the best they can. And my dad worked in aircraft, and, they get laid off about every 18 months. Make large chunks of cash. Okay, cool. Learning the art of real estate, getting highly passionable or personable, and getting for early, I guess, retirement. Sorry. Uh, uh, yeah, it's funny. When I first started, I started a cabinet shop. Okay, and started that when I was 19. And I remember vividly thinking, I just wanted to have a little cabinet shop. That's all I thought. I thought, what, I'd like to live in the mountains, and I could almost picture like smoke coming out of the fireplace, where I'm working in my little cabinet shop, and I can see my house on the hill, and smoke coming out of it. I don't know why, but that was part of what I envisioned as being cool, and what I wanted. And and things change, but the main thing is have something to work for. Have something to work for. And then, like I said, so whatever your goal is, it's just all stepping stones to get there. Okay, cool. Yeah, oh, good. You got a son? Is that right, Dave? You got a daughter or a son? Um, Again, kids too. I think about it all the time. It's interesting because, I know teachers, and they see some rough stuff. They see, that just how it is. Just how it is today. Half, yep, right on. Nice, 6 years, huh? Yeah. I got a 20, 22, and a 19, and then I got two 14. And and that's a great motivation because nothing. I mean, you always want more for your kids. You want better for your kids than whatever you had, and uh, but back to achieving goals. One thing I've always find is you set your sights on a goal, and but you get it done. Just get it done and go to the next one. But always kind of keep yourself loaded up with goals to achieve. So that like when you get one done, then you got something else to go to. And I mean, like it's a deal or make some money. And like I say, always try to have more money in the bank or be worth more, tomorrow than you are today. And I just think that's a real good philosophy and attitude and goal. You always want to have more money next week or be worth more. Maybe not cash because you might have it invested in something. But always have more than you have today, next week, and just keep plowing it into something new. Is anybody making any deals? Anybody? I don't know what level you guys are at. If you already own a home or not, or if you're just starting. It's all relative to the deals that you can make. It's all relative, and sometimes. If somebody doesn't have a house yet, or maybe you don't have much cash, maybe don't concentrate on commercial property just yet, because it's probably a little bit, houses kind of easy, a little bit easier than commercial. They're all the same basically. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot more houses out there, but there's a lot less people probably going after commercial. Oh, okay. Well, David, you got 60 grand and an 800 credit score, then you're in good shape. I think you're in really good shape. So you got some choices. But even if you only got, $1,000, I mean, it is unbelievable how fast you can take $1,000 and turn it into 10. And then, what's tough is, what's funny? I've always noticed this is, and I just even think back on all the deals that I've done. I can take 1,000 and turn it into 5,000 very quickly. It just seems like, because you buy something or you get something, to flip to somebody else, and making $5,000, investing 1,000, tying up a property with a deposit, and then turning it into 5,000 has always been something I've been able to do relatively quickly as a young guy. But I can't seem to take 100 and turn it into 500,000. Yeah, Tom at flipanythingusa.com. So yeah, if you would, because like I say, I want to give people a gift here, but I'm kind of doing a little bit of a poll. All you got to do is just put in the, just send me an email, and you can just write Android or iPhone, whatever you use in the subject line, and that's all you got to do is just send me that. And I guess you could put Android or iPhone back inside too, so it doesn't, trip you up, but so it just goes out, because then I'll have your email, and I'll know what your phone is. There's nothing else. I don't need your name. I don't need any of the other stuff. But you can send it if you want. But I'm not trying to sell you anything. I promise you. I'm not trying to get your. I'm not trying to whatever, get my hooks in you to try to sell you something. But this is about the free gift that I've been telling you about. Can't give you too much on it. But what I want to do is I want to take those of you that are the most engaged, and I consider you picking up, your phone or whatever you're looking at right now at, I don't know if it's midnight, if you're East Coast, or if it's, 9, or, in California, or, if you're in the middle somewhere and it's 11. That's what I want. I want the guys that are the most engaged and the gals that are most engaged. And I want to help you guys make some money. I want to see you make some money. And so it's important to me. Hey, Tony, glad you're here. So anyways, and the best way I can do that, like I said, you guys that are the most engaged, you have the highest probability of making money. I can tell you right now. It's just like I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and look, I got a lot of free time, and we were talking about, playing the guitar. I said, yeah, I wish I could play the guitar, and I have all the time in the world to learn how to play guitar. I do. but I just don't want it bad enough. I just don't want to practice. As I said, man, I'd love to know how to play. I just don't want to practice. I don't want to go through all the. I don't want to do all the work it takes to learn how to play guitar. Now, real estate, I love making money on deals, and I love business, and I make money in business, and that's not even work. And so that's really the best thing is if you can. It's not near as hard as you think. Yeah. Oh, guitar? Yeah, well, to play the way I want to play it, yeah, probably it's tougher because I'm not even close. But I want, you got to want it. You got to want it. And the fact that you guys are watching right now and that you're trying to figure it out, you want it. You want it. And I'm telling you, that's almost 90% of it. Just having the desire to want to learn and to make money and to do something new and it can be done. It can be done. And I remember just reading books, and I'd read Think and Grow Rich and all kinds of books that were related to making money, and some that are out of print now too. But it just reconfirmed what I wanted to know, just like I'm reconfirming to you. Yeah, you can do it. It can be done. I've done it, and I share some of the deals that I've done, and and I got all kinds I bought all kinds of houses. I was looking at cars the other day, and I was looking at a new Audi. I don't know. I think it's a Q7 or something. And so me and my boys, we took it for a ride, and I got rid of the little BMW. And I have a little Lexus that I drive right now, but it's for my daughter. She's going to be out of college here in another couple months, and she's going to need it. And so I got some time to figure out what I want. And I was looking at the Audi, and I thought, damn, it was $56,000. I'm like, $56,000? I bought houses for $20,000. Okay, that's very difficult for me to pay. Because it's still, it was 20-something, 30 years ago, but it's just like it was yesterday. And so it's difficult. Or like, look, I bought the lake house, right, for 80 grand. Well, I thought this car was 56,000, and I just kind of got myself, conditioned where, okay, screw it. I'll go ahead and probably buy this for 50, 60,000, whatever. Get it fully loaded, get something nice. I figure I deserve it. And then my son says, no, Dad. He goes, it wasn't 56. He goes, it was 71. He goes, it was $71,000 for a freaking car. It's unbelievable, And it's okay, it's nice, but I'm telling you, man, it's just hard for me because I know what I can do with that money. I can put it into something that makes more money, and a car ain't gonna do it. And in all honesty, I don't drive that much. I drive 5 miles to work, 5 miles back. And then I drive all over, town or wherever, just looking at properties and things. But it's not that much driving. It really isn't. And so it's tough to justify. And I'm kind of rambling on here, but back to you guys. Look, because you're engaged and you're digging in and you're looking at, you're interested in making money. And just like I said, I'm not interested enough to learn how to play guitar and learn how to play it. But the real estate I've got a passion for, and I was like you. I was taking time I didn't have the internet, but I was digging, I was reading, I'd go down to the bookstore and I'd read, I'd grab off the shelf and I'd, just peruse through, and if I really felt motivated or if a book kind of grabbed me a little bit, I'd buy it. And I still have boxes of those books. Okay, another Android, okay. Hey, just email it to me. I put it in there, tom@flipanythingusa.com. And what do we got here? Getting your first deal, yeah. Well, the first one's always seems the hardest. So if you haven't already done a deal, it's important you do, because, and it doesn't even have to be a real estate deal. Just find something. Even I can tell you, I started a company while I'd already made a lot of money in real estate. And what would happen is, okay, let's see what we got here. I'll get to that, Tony. So I'd already made a lot of money in real estate. But what would happen is I buy something and then I'm broke. I might sell something and I have maybe $200,000 or $300,000, and then I turn that, I just roll the whole thing into another property that costs even more. and I'm broke. And now that not only that, yep, thanks, Pam. Now that even though I'm broke, now I keep myself broke because usually what I buy is going to take money to fix up, and so I keep throwing money and fixing it up. But so I'd be broke, and I really wouldn't have any working capital because I've just sunk it all in my latest property. And I have a lot of other properties, but I didn't want to sell any of those in particularly, you know, or you know, something I have to fix up before I can turn it. And so I started flipping more little things in between, you know. In other words, I actually started a company where I was selling stuff, and I had an ad going, and I'd just pull over and I'd take an order off my cell phone. And it was kind of a little bit of a rush. In other words, you know, like I say, it's you buy something and now you're broke for 6 months. Well, during that 6-month duration, at least I had this other little business I started where I was selling something. And so I get a phone call, I say, okay, and I talk it, and I, you know, make the deal, and it's just $200, but I'm making $100 every time I sell something for $200. But it's just like a little fix, you know. It's like, oh, good, you know, ching, I made $100, and I get back on the road and drive, you know. And that might happen 2 or 3 times a day, or it might happen just 2 or 3 times a week. But I'm still productive, and I'm still making a little bit of money. But it was actually a little bit of just kind of feeding that need of mine. Like, I like to make a deal. I feel productive, you know. Okay, great, I made a profit. Even though it's only $100, and it's every day or every other day or whatever, at least it's something. And I think it's really healthy. And so think about that for yourselves, how you can turn something. Well, I went into one of my tenants today. I stopped in and talked to them, and they buy and sell used stuff, and they do a lot of coins too. And I was talking to him about those coins, and he said, oh yeah, he goes, these coins, he goes, you know, we'll buy a coin for $200 and we'll sell it for $1,000. And so that might not be a bad business to play around with on the side, you know, if you, or maybe you already know coins, I don't know. But, you know, just throwing an idea out there. But looking at anything, getting on Craigslist, and look at the most expensive, you know, go into miscellaneous and just go to, you know, most expensive and look from the most expensive down, and you know, you're bound to find something that you can buy under market and make a profit on. You know, just recently, I think I mentioned the other day, a friend of mine bought like a 1944 Willys Jeep, got it for $600, and I know somebody else got another deal almost as good. It was also, I think it was a Willys too, it was a little different style, and he got it for about $600-700 too. And you know, and these are things that are worth $3,000 to $5,000 minimum, and you know, they just turned it, flipped it, and made a few grand. But if you can do that, and at the same time, yeah, Lincoln Welders are good. I have several. I mostly have Millers, all blue ones, but it doesn't matter what it is. It just doesn't matter what it is. And you know, there's just money to be made. But you know, ideally, if you can buy something that costs, you know, something that's worth $10,000. You know, say something that's new, like my scissor lift. I bought a scissor lift, cost $20,000 new. You know, they're worth $10,000 used. And I saw one for sale. They wanted $6,000. I offered them $4,000, and they said no. And I said, okay, well, here's my number. And then 2 days later, they call me up. They go, hey, you want it? I said, yeah, if you deliver it. So they delivered it, and I bought it for $4,000. And I didn't sell it because I actually used the heck out of a scissor lift, because I have gutters to clean on second-story commercial buildings and second-story windows. Sometimes we'll have to go up, and I'll have people, you know, use that to clean. Electricians use it. My tree trimmers use it for some things. We change a light bulb in a warehouse. We have to crank straight up. And so tools are good, because tools are kind of expensive and small usually. And but coins are valuable. Diamond rings, if you can understand. I would love to. I wish I knew about diamonds. That's what I do. I'd be buying and selling diamonds. I just don't know the business, you know, and I don't know if I have the passion for it, to be honest. But you know, maybe if I made enough money and I saw some big profits, I might get excited. Might develop a passion for it. And that's probably what will happen with you. Like I say, when you start making money in real estate, you will develop a passion. You're going to just develop a passion for it. You're going to see how much money you make, and your mind's just going to go wild thinking how much more you can make. And you'll dream about giant deals, and then some days you'll do deals that are bigger than you ever dreamed. And then it's like, man, you take your dreams to the next level, and it just, you buy something. And I bought, one of the most best memories is, I bought a property for like 30, sold it for 160. I bought one for, that was land, it was like 10 acres. And another time I bought 70 acres for 140, and I sold it for 520,000. And and just there's a lot of, right down the road here, I bought for, what I pay? I paid 40,000 for it. I sold it for 110. Another building, rocks throw away. I bought it for 110. Actually, I tried to get my tenant to buy it. My tenant was the one who found out about it, and I said, "Man, you got to buy that thing." And I took him down there because I wanted to help him get it, and he started getting cold feet. And I said, "Listen, we got to buy that thing. I'll buy it with you." I said, "Or I'll just buy it. We'll close this deal, and I'll give you 10 grand." And as soon as I made the deal, he said, "You know what? I want you to just give me 10 grand." I said, "It's a deal." And I signed him out of it. He assigned his position to me, basically. I gave him 10 grand. I closed that thing for 110,000. Oh, Emmanuel, some of these things took 3 weeks. 3 weeks to make over 300 grand. Anyhow, let me finish that one story. That office deal, that was 110. I think I paid 110, and I gave him 10, so it cost me 120. I sold it for 280,000 within 3 months, and I didn't even want to sell it. I had a guy begging me to sell it to him for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I didn't want to sell it. I wanted to rent it. I wanted to keep it. It was really prime, and I really thought it was a great deal. But this guy was relentless, and see how it pays off? Somebody could talk me out of a piece of property, but he was relentless. He wouldn't leave me alone. He said, "You must sell it to me." I don't know if he's Sri Lankan, or I forget exactly what tribe he's from, but nice guy. And in fact, it was 2 partners. Actually, one of them passed, unfortunately. But they ended up buying it from me, and they were a sign company. And I sold them. They've been making signs for me for last 10, 12 years. In fact, that's where I knew them, is they were already making signs for me. And then but anyways, long story short, I sold them the property, and I made a lot of money on it. Those are the things that can happen. You can buy something, and you can make 100 grand in a couple of weeks. You can make 10 grand in a couple of weeks. It's just relative to the deal you buy. I was actually really surprised when I bought 30 acres. No, I bought 10 acres for 30 grand. And rezoning is I've rezoned some properties, but a lot of times it ain't about rezoning. It's just about getting a deal, just getting a piece of property that you recognize that there's value there that other people don't. And you'll see people buy something for 10, and then maybe they put it back up, and then you buy it from them for 30, and then you sell it for 100. And so they thought they cut a fat hog making 20, and now here you're making 70. Things like that happen, and they happen every day in just about every city in the USA, okay? So there's deals all the time to be made. In the rezoning, I've done that too, and it's not hard. People think it's hard. It's easy. Let's see, any other questions I passed up on here? Yeah. I would just say, if you haven't done any deals, if you haven't turned to anything yet, just start working on something. Turn a small item. Find something and it can be land if you want, or a building or whatever you want to do. But at the same time, don't lose sight of something that you can buy that's a great deal, and just return and sell for more. That desk, I say little, it was very heavy. That oak roll top desk I bought it for $200. I put it in Craigslist for $1,000, and a guy called me up and said, "Hey, would you take 100?" And I said, "Sure, come pick it up." And I made $600 on that little oak roll top. And this is only a few weeks ago, and you can see the video on that. It's not much to it, but that's how simple it is. That's how simple. And I can tell you, furniture, you might even mess around with some furniture, because people just give furniture away. People put furniture on the street that's worth something, if that's what you kind of decide to work on or specialize in, and I'll be honest too, I don't know what kind of cars you guys drive, but I drive a pickup mostly. I have a pickup, and one of the reasons is because half the time I pull up, there's something I need to throw in the back of my truck that's unsightly, or a sign's knocked down, or who knows what I run into on my properties, just about it, or trash or something like that. So I think a truck is a real practical vehicle to have if you're an investor, especially when you start accumulating property, because you'd just be surprised. You got to pick up something at Home Depot, or you got to pick up, like, I was having a bad run here. Yeah, I've turned cars, you bet. Yeah, the fire truck, I wouldn't even consider that car. That was like turning a small building on wheels. Those things cost $500,000 new. Now that one I turned, and so the fire truck Pamela just referred to is one that I saw an auction online. This is like when the internet was fairly new, actually. And I just got on and submitted a blind bid on it. I think for like, I don't know, 10 or 11,000. And then I get a phone call and a letter saying I got it. It's like, oh great, now what am I going to do? Anyways, but I bought that and I turned it and sold it to Ponca City Fire Department in Oklahoma, and made 20 grand. And that's the kind of thing you can do fairly easily, is things like that. City auctions. Go to city auctions. City auctions, you can make a lot of money on city auctions. Your city, they get rid of equipment. They buy stuff they don't need many times, or they barely use it. The vehicles they'll use quite a bit, but sometimes they buy stuff that never gets used, and then they put it up for sale, because they kind of put everything up for sale that they buy, a few years after they buy it. So sometimes you can find something that has very little hours on it, and just turn it. And you'll learn too with auctions. I had it was a pain in the butt. I had an auction, and it was, it was local, but it was international too. It was all over the internet. And I went down there and I found this rack that I wanted. It cost about $4 grand, this rack. Anyhow, I bid, I think $700 on it. I really wanted it. And it was like item number 150. And so I went down there and I could see this thing was going to take forever. So I just put a standing bid on it, $900. And then I go back and I find out the auction's done, and I look at my line item and it says it sold for $700, but I didn't get it. So I'm like, how could somebody else get it? Because they'd have to beat me to get it, not be the same price. And what happened was, and this is what they'll do sometimes, when they get an auction and they're running late, they start bunching items together. And that's what happened. Let's say I was item number 150. What happened is they got up to like item number 148, and they go, okay, we're going to bunch here 148 through 155. So mine's in the middle there. And that's what they did. So they kind of lost track of my standing bid of $700 just for that one item. And they go, okay, we're going to take item 148 through 155, and they do their they're bidding up, and somebody got everything for $700. For $700, somebody got everything, and I was so pissed. I was so angry that they lost my bid or lost track of it. So I got the name of the guy that bought that whole lot of things, contacted him. I wanted that rack. I told him what happened. He just laughed, because it was kind of funny. And I said, look, I want to buy that rack. Can I just give you $700 for the rack? He goes, well, I think it's worth more than that. And he was right. It's worth like $4 grand. And so I gave him $2 grand for it. And so he made $1,300 off me that day at the auction. And that's something else you should know. When you go to those auctions, this happens all the time. People start bidding on stuff, and then you'll get it, or somebody will get it, and then they're going, dang, I wish I'd have bid more. And then they start thinking about it, and they start deciding, man, I want to leave here with that item. And that's kind of what happened to me that time. And I've seen it happen, and I've done it before too. And somebody gets the item, and you're going, man, and you say to them, hey, how about I'll give you 200 more than you just bought it for, and I'll haul it away. And you still get a great deal. But I mean, and it's funny how this occurs, but it does happen. And people will come to you and say, hey, what do you want for that item you just bought? Or, or sometimes you'll bid on accessories in hope, and then like say they're accessories for a bigger machine, like if it was a machine shop machine, you might be buying some tooling, and so you're buying up the tooling, and then when it gets to the big machine, you don't get it. Somebody outbids you on it. So now you got this tooling for a machine you don't own, and sometimes that guy will come back and say, man, I'd like to buy that tooling from you, and then you might make money on that tooling. You sell him the tooling for the machine that he bought. And there's things you'll learn about it if you play with auctions, but particularly you should always look at your local auctions, because those are the ones that are the least accessible to the rest of the United States, because they're far away. And not that they can't bid on them and buy them, because you can do anything now. You're kind of like in the room with everybody else now in these auctions. And hey, before I forget, please push the notification buttons if you haven't already, and give me a like if you would, please, and I'd appreciate it. But anyways, any other questions? Anybody got anything else on their mind? Yeah, turning cars. Is that what you asked? Yeah, so, yeah, Pam, I did. I bought and sold cars. When I was 15, I started buying cars. And, I had a van I was working on, trying to ultimately make my main car. And, but I did. I bought, from one car lot alone, I think I probably bought, 15 cars in about 6-7 years. And just buying and reselling. I'd buy it off the lot, and then I'd, clean it up and resell it. And I bought some, but yeah, cars are good. If you watch, if you specialize in anything, you can make money on anything. But if you specialize and watch the paper, or watch whatever the source you're looking at, Craigslist is a good one. You'll find stuff. It's just about being there first, whether it's real estate or it's items that are for sale. Half of it is just being there first. And if maybe you've got a job is such that you can kind of surf a little bit for deals here while you're doing whatever you do and get paid for, and maybe you can go back and forth and catch something early, and it's important. And like I say, the more my bank called me today because I have a loan coming due on actually the school property I've shown you guys before. I owe about $500,000 on it, and it's worth a couple $1,000,000 at least. And what I told them was I wanted I got to refi that $500,000, which is simple. They're just going to extend the loan, and it's just a signature for me. But I said also I wouldn't mind getting a line of credit because I'm going to build a building, and I could use the money for that, but anyways, so building your credit is very important, and just taking care of your credit, and try not to let anything damage it. Always pay your stuff on time, and I really was a good discipline for me. I got a first credit card I ever had. I got an American Express, and an American Express card, whatever you charge on that, it's all due at the end of the month. And it really trains you not to spend more than you have, because so many people get a credit card, and what do? They just run it up, and next thing you know, they owe $10,000-$12,000, and they didn't really feel like when they were using it that they had to pay it back, or you know what I mean? They just, or they, I don't know. I never really fool myself with credit cards. I never have, and so. Because I couldn't get a Visa or MasterCard when I was a kid, I couldn't get one. All I could get was American Express, and that was due and payable at the end of the month. And so that trained me. So now when I did finally get a Visa or MasterCard, it didn't matter whatever I used, I would pay the entire balance at the end of the month. I never really borrowed money for any extended amount of time on a credit card. And I know I see a lot of people talk about, just get a bunch of credit cards and borrow a bunch of money. And, it's funny, I saw a Mark Cuban quote today, and he said, he said only a fool starts a business on borrowed money, and I would agree with him. And that's why it can be kind of scary when people start a business on a credit card, because what you need to do is you need your overhead to be low. And but anyways, that kind of resonated with me, and it's certainly how I feel. Let's see what else we got here. Yep, Sean. Yeah. Yep, you love that Amex. Same here, man. You just pay the whole thing at the end of the month, and it trains you not to spend more than you have. You know what I mean? And it makes you really think carefully. Okay, this is what I got. Okay, so when I get a house under contract to reassign, do I get a buyer first, or run the title before I line up the buyer? You know, it doesn't really matter, David, if that's what you want to do is assign. But I mean, hey, if you got $60,000 and an 800 credit score, just go find a knockout deal and just close the damn thing as fast as you can. I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, if you got 60,000 cash, you know, go find that property that you want, and you know, if it's 150, 200,000, whatever, you got more than enough to close that deal. So you could, you know, go through the motions of closing it, and but as far as if you want to just strictly assign it to someone, you know, it's got to be a great deal, and then you know, get the title going if you want to make sure that it's clear before you flip it to somebody else. Chances are it's going to be clear. I mean, it almost always is. But you know, maybe the guy that wants to take your assignment, the guy that wants to take your the assignee, let's say, he if he's smart, he would probably want to make sure that the title's clear, and because if he found out after the fact, he'd be going, hey, what's up, you know, and then, you know, you could always give him the money back if the title's not clear. But for the most part, it's upon the seller of the property to have the title clear when they sell it. So, and most chances are you're going to clear up the title anyways. I don't know, you know, very few things, you know, you'll see some encumbrances. Sometimes you'll see on a you know, a property you're buying that they've leased out a portion of it forever, for 25 years, to a cell tower or to a sign company or something like that. And those things kind of devastate the property because they take so much of the real estate that you can't use. You know, or if, you know, one time I got in a deal. I had a piece of property. I was a real estate agent for about 6 months, about 35 years ago, and I'd already been buying and selling land like crazy myself. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll be an agent too, and so got a license. And I knew so much about land; it was really easy for me to get listings because anybody I talked to, they quickly realized how much I knew. So, but I had one property deal land in my lap, and I mean, as soon as I got it, I resold it. I resold the property as fast as I mean, it was somebody else's. They listed it with me, and I sold it. And I almost never looked at it. But what I did do in that contract is I wrote, buyer accepts property as is and has, you know, done his due diligence and has thoroughly examined the property and accepts the property in its current condition and agrees that it's suitable for their purposes in as-is condition. I really kind of laid it on thick. And it's because it was so far out in the desert, I hadn't even had a chance to go look at it yet. And but these people were ready to buy it, and they wanted to buy it. I said, okay, fine, you know, you've looked at it. And so that property, I want to say I sold it for maybe 30, 40,000. It was way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. And then, sure enough, about a year later, get a phone call, and these people are upset. They bought the property for $250,000. They paid cash for it, and they got taken advantage of, it sounded like, for sure. Well, they definitely did. It wasn't worth that. But they said, yeah, there's a giant ravine running right through this property, right from one corner of the property through the other. And so I get out a topo map, and I have a flood map, and I'm doing the northwest corner, section 31, and they kind of just keeps, it'll say the, it keeps describing sections and sections and sections and squares. So all of a sudden, that's kind of in California how they do the how they go through and describe the sections and parcels. And sure enough, I'm looking at this big old floodplain map with a huge ravine in it, and I'm doing the math on this thing, and it keeps coming down. And then pretty soon I got a perfect little square, and sure enough, this little square with a giant ravine running through it. I didn't even have to drive out there. I could just see it in the flood map. But there was a ravine that was probably 10 feet deep, 40 feet wide, and but it wasn't my problem, and it wasn't the previous owner of the property that I'd represented. It wasn't his problem either, because I thoroughly disclosed in the contract that we didn't know anything about the property, but I also had them own it. So for whatever condition it was in, they were accepting it in its current condition, and that they had seen it and that they had accepted it just the way it was as is. And that's what covered us. So we never, there was no trouble for us. Where if we'd have left that out, they could have made the case that, they were misrepresented by me, and which they weren't. But anyways, things happen. Well, I don't know if anybody's got any other questions. I'm happy to address them if you do. Okay, Sean, real quick. How do you correctly value and analyze investment? Man, just keep watching my videos. I mean, basically, I just know my neighborhood. If you're looking at real estate and you're looking at if you're flood maps, they're out there. I don't know exactly where to tell you to get them, but I had a beautiful set, but they're out there. Just dig. You look them up, you'll find them, and just go look on the internet for the area you want, and you'll see them. They're available to buy or whatever. But it's important stuff to have, depending on what kind of property you're working. Yeah, on valuing property, you just have to look at what's for sale, and you have to look at what's sold, and you'll quickly know. If you're concentrating in one particular subdivision, you're going to know what 3-bedroom, 2-baths sell for. You can do the math, and you're going to go, gee, why is this one only $100,000? This one's $150,000. Well, it might be because that one's 1,000 square feet, and this other one's 1,350 or 1,700 square feet. But you'll do the math and you figure it out, and that's how you do it. You look at what sells, and it's pretty easy to assess a deal when you see one. Once you go through your what other maps? Well, really, I mean, the main maps I concern myself with land are flood maps, because I don't want to make sure I'm not in the flood zone. Then of course, you've got parcel maps, but that's more, that's just platted property. So, those descriptions you can also find. You can get records on there that shows you all the stuff. I used to buy microfiche that had, exact pictures of every parcel. Now you don't need it because everything's digitized. But it just depends on what do you want to, Royal Woman, what do you want to concentrate on? Are you looking at land somewhere? Yeah, and land is a good one too. I don't know where you guys live. In fact, why don't you guys tell me what states you're in? Or cities? Yeah, wow, yeah, Florida, yeah, I don't know. Just be careful, because, it's a swamp there anyways. So you got to be real careful, make sure that, there's not only, when you're buying land, especially in areas that are kind of wetlands, if they need a septic system, sometimes you dig down 5 feet and you're in water. And we got 2 in Texas right there. And so sometimes the problem is Oh, Rhode Island. Oh, okay, cool. And heading to Florida. Which city in Florida? Um, what I was gonna say in New York. Yeah, I like New York. Are you in upstate or where you at? Sean, if you're in California, I mean, yeah, you probably can find. There's a lot of land in California. Uh, oh, Gainesville, Orlando. Okay. Um, uh, there's land everywhere. Hudson Valley, New York. I'm not familiar. Uh, yeah, land is wonderful. I mean, you might find. Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. Well, anywhere there's land. I mean, if there's land. If there's parcels and it's buildable, and most lots are. And then you want to make sure that there's water. In other words, that there's a water company so that you can get a water meter to tie in. A lot of that's important to people, builders and stuff. And this 50 acres I bought a while back, and I made a lot of money on it. What I discovered, which is I found a 24-inch sewer main. That's big stuff because it means it would support a huge track, and there's 180 homes on that property I sold now. But but yeah, land is wonderful. There's buildable lots. People go in and they'll do 100 lot subdivision, and then the guy sells off all the lots and he's made his money, from 70, 80 years ago, and now these lots have been sitting empty, and there's a handful of them get built. But back to California, look at Lancaster out in the desert in Antelope Valley. There's so much land that changes hands all the time out there. Every 20 years, every 10 years, somebody buys and resells something. But there's all kinds of acre and a quarters, 2.5 acre parcels, 5s, 10s, and plenty of money. And the best part about land, you don't even have to have good credit. For land, people expect to sell it with like 10% down and flip it, or 10% down and they carry a note. And it's wonderful if somebody carries a note, because then you can sell it, and then somebody can assume the first that you're paying on, and then maybe they just give you enough cash down that you just get cashed out, and they assume the note. A lot of times the key for flipping and making a really good deal, and one of the best deals I ever did was this restaurant I bought and sold, and I negotiated a deal, I think 3% interest on a $700,000 note. And so the payment was like $2,200 a month on a $700,000 loan. And so when I sold it, it was real easy for the guys that I sold it to. They had to come up with, I think, $250,000, and then they assumed the note. And I made about $200,000 on the real estate. But it was those great terms that I made on that property, on the purchase, that they could assume, that really made it attractive to them. And it probably meant a lot to me, because I might have, in other words, they could have given me $100,000 more than what it was really worth and still come out ahead, because the terms were so favorable, the interest rate was so low, and that sort of thing. Yeah, Sean, yeah, look at land for sure. David, I don't know the area particularly well, but I know some California, I know some Austin, I know some, Idaho, and I look at those areas, all three, and but yeah, no, I think out there is fine. I don't know how many small parcels there are, but yeah, if you can find a 10 or a 5 or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you can find just a subdivision where there's already homes, and just go through a subdivision that's, maybe it's been around 10 or 20 years, but it's not fully built out. And so you'll drive through there and you'll see, oh, there's a lot there. You can tell, between the houses are empty lots. I go to Manhattan. I had one heartbreaker deal. I almost bought a 4,000 square foot machine shop in New Jersey, directly across from Manhattan. It was just a ferry boat ride, or I should say a water taxi from Manhattan straight over to, oh, they called it Line Road, and I can't even think of the name. I can never remember the name of that particular city, but it's directly across from Manhattan, along the little Jersey Shore, I guess, or not Jersey Shore, but along the riverbank there. And but anyways, it was a killer deal. I would have loved to have that because, like I said, I could walk from Manhattan, downtown Manhattan, to the water taxi, go across, and then it was like a 5-minute drive or a 5-minute cab ride to that property. And I didn't want to keep it for a machine shop. I thought, man, I'll put a condo on here or something, or I'll live in that building at 4,000 for 700. Well, and somebody else ended up getting that thing, but it was a really good deal. Well, hey, David, like anything, when you got a lot, you stick a sign on it, and then what I would do is just put it in on Craigslist. But it's always important, if you got a lot, just stick a sign on it. But I mean, you're going to have to close that deal. You're probably not going to flip it so easily, but maybe. But ideally, if you got some money in your hand, like I don't. Let's see. Yeah, well, you have $4,400, and you'd be surprised. You could have, if you have an acre and a quarter for, well, depends on how far. It may not be in Lancaster. There's some stuff that's so far out that you'd be surprised. It's worth zero. It's just so far out. But I'm getting sidelined here. But when you buy a lot, when you're going to buy land, just stick a sign on it, for sale. Put an ad in the paper, or paper's almost antiquated now. Just put it on Craigslist. Go into Craigslist under real estate, and just list it. House, and describe where it's at, or lot. I'm sorry, where it's at, and maybe put a couple pictures of it, pictures of the street, and that's all you need to do. And somebody will find it. And here's the best thing: when somebody's looking at a lot or they're looking at a house, it's so important you put a sign out, because people are looking in the neighborhood in which they want to buy. So the easiest thing for them to run into is a sign. I mean, I rent everything off signs more than I do off of ads, because people know where they want to have their business, or they know where they want to live, and they drive those neighborhoods, and then if they see a sign, they call. And so, yeah, signs are probably the key thing on that. Well, it's almost been an hour. Went a little longer than I even expected. So please, like the videos, and push the button there for notifications, and because that's how I'm going to ultimately notify people to get a gift. And if you have an email, be sure to email me. Let me know if you use an iPhone or an Android. Send it to the email there. It's on the below the video. Tom at Flip Anything USA, and I'll have the contact for you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for watching. And if any particular topic you guys want to cover, just stick it in the comment line, and we'll try to cover it next time. I'm just now wrapping up my studio, so we're going to start doing some in-studio stuff pretty soon. That project's taken a lot longer than I thought, but it's almost done now. And I got all the equipment in that I wanted. And but we'll keep sharing, and we'll just keep trying to make some money together, and that's it. So Flip Anything USA, again, please share and subscribe, and we'll just keep meeting up when we can. Thanks a lot.